God bless everybody. Today it is November 13th of 2024, and things are moving extremely quickly in the Middle East. Things are breaking down extensively all over that region, and I want to bring you a few stories that I think are extremely important to where this is heading in the next few months. As I've been saying, Erdogan of Turkey is getting ready to do an invasion into Syria and Iraq around the first of the year in January that is going to radiate into a destructive mode of Iran by the end of that year of 2025 as we go into January of 2026. And I've shown you that based off history that these events will reoccur. So let's go into these because Erdogan now has severed all relations with Israel. They have shut that gate. They don't want to have any more conversations with them. Erdogan is extremely upset with Israel over the ramping up of these attacks on Hamas as well as Hezbollah, and so he is severing all ties with Israel, which should send a strong message that he's not happy. He's been going to the UN. He's been trying to mobilize the Muslim community against Israel. If you look at this statement, one of the reasons that he's severing his relationship is that the West and Israel have come together as a unified force against these Muslim nations, and he's complaining that the Muslims need to coalesce around his message and take on an attack stance against Israel itself. So in this running theme, Erdogan has approached a number of organizations like the UN and different things to try to bring the Muslim communities together, or any nations that would support him against Israel and the West. Okay, now that we are actually attacking targets in Yemen and things like that, we've sent THAAD systems over there and different things like that. We've interjected ourselves into this war with Israel and these proxies, and also Iran. But Turkey's not going to stand for this, and there's a huge factor or a number of factors that are getting ready to play into his equation on what he's getting ready to do. Now, like I say, he was trying to coalesce everybody at the UN. He was trying to boycott them. He's doing the same thing. This was on November 11th, which was on Monday. He came out and urged the Muslim nations at the Arab League summit in Saudi Arabia to unite against Israel. Now, this is extremely important because when you talk about the Saudis, you have to think about oil and how the Saudis are moving away from the petrodollar, and they're actually supporting the East, not the West at this point, through the BRICS. Okay, so if you have this happen, you will end up in a similar boycott as you saw back during the 1973 Yom Kippur War, which led us into the gas lines of the 1973 in the United States, where you stood in line for days or hours to get a few gallons of gas, and everything stagflated, and it was terrible. Okay, so just realize that's probably where this is getting ready to head, because if the Saudis move away from the petrodollar and embargo us and Israel, that's going to multiple X up your oils per barrel and cause all kinds of problems. I've been talking about this. Now, what would force this to happen is you would see this next attack between Iran on Israel and Israel on Iran as we move forward in the next few weeks. You saw a fairly large attack from Israel onto Iran that penetrated a number of their defenses. Iran is indicating that they will use much more powerful warheads and other weapons in a planned attack. That was back on the 3rd of November. This hasn't happened. This is a slow train wreck ready to happen, but it's going to speed up and accelerate here as we move into the first of the year. The other thing that you he sort of indicated in this article is that they would do a multi-prong attack from multiple regions, probably from Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, possibly even Syria and Iraq and other areas that would come in from different angles and overwhelm the defensive shield system that Israel has in place. And so this attack is getting ready to happen. And then Israel will have to respond based on the strength of Iran's attack and their proxy's attack on Israel, which is getting ready to happen next. Now, Israel's still doing attacks on both Hezbollah and Hamas to control the situation because they're not slowing down this process. And now that Trump's in place, they feel that they have the backing of the United States to do this. And so I believe the gloves are off, and this is just going to get pretty horrific over in the Middle East at this moment in time. But Iran won't launch just a few hundred missiles like they did before. Look, last attack around November 1st, Hezbollah launched about 320 missiles. Iran launched about 180 ballistic missiles, and there was not that much penetration. There was some, but there wasn't that much. I believe that was a test run to see how that effect would happen, and now that they've had a attack, a response from Israel into Iran with an additional attack, you're going to see this attack by Iran on Israel tenfold compared to what it was before. And what I mean by that is, instead of a few hundred missiles or 400 or 500 missiles, you might see 2, 3, 4, or 5,000 missiles rain in on Israel from multiple directions, which would overwhelm their defensive shields, and that would then do penetration, and then Israel would have to respond in kind. And what they would do then is, which they didn't do in the first attack, is they would hit their nuclear facilities that build nuclear materials for bombs, and also oil facilities. That then is going to change your dynamic of the Middle East, and oil per barrel, that's going to X up, and that's going to hyperinflate the fuel at the pump. The other thing that concerns me about this next attack from Iran on Israel is when they launch these few thousand missiles, they're going to be launching them all over the country, okay? They're going to be sporadically hitting all over the country of Israel and probably in Jerusalem, which is going to be a problem for Erdogan as he's watching missiles fly over the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. He's not going to tolerate this well. Now, the Persians don't have a problem with this, okay, because they're not religiously connected to the Temple Mount like the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians are. But when Erdogan sees those missiles explode over that Temple Mount, possibly hit the Temple Mount, or damage one of these structures up there, or even just seeing these missiles over the top of the over the top of the Temple Mount, he is going to have some serious problems with this. I think Erdogan sees this coming. I think he knows the next attack is going to be extensive. I think he knows that it will possibly affect the Temple Mount, and he will not allow anything to happen to that Temple Mount. This is extremely important to him. He visits it all the time when he had the ability to. And it's like the third most holiest site on the planet. So it's extremely important to the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians. And so this will be a problem for him. And that's one of the reasons I think he's going to get into this in January, as it indicates in the past that Alexander invaded in January and ended up absorbing Tyre, Lebanon by July of that year. And I want to tie a couple more stories in before we move to the next topic that affects Turkey. Turkey presses the UN for arms embargo on Israel in joint letter with 52 countries. And so they're trying to manipulate the UN and other organizations out here to basically indicate that Israel is a terrorist nation in Turkey's eyes, and that they should stop funneling these weapons to them immediately. So the last thing I want to talk about is when that attack on Turkey's aerospace facility happened on October 23rd. That was right before the end of Shemini Atzeret, which was on the 24th, which ends the fall feast for the Jewish calendar, and that's when you also saw the attack on Israel on Iran. So that gives you context to where we are. We're a few weeks ahead here. Iran's getting ready to launch attack on Israel, which will then have a response by Israel, probably on their nuclear and oil facilities. But the other thing that we are watching here is we need to be watching the Kurds, because Turkey, when that aerospace facility was attacked, he unleashed 2 new fronts on Syria and Iraq on Shemini Atzeret around the 23rd, 24th. Okay. He was also at the BRICS meeting at that time between the 22nd and 24th, so there was a lot happening all at the same time. If you go back a year, on October 7th on Shemini Atzeret, you had the attack of Hamas into Israel. So a year later, you saw this attack right after the High Holy Days on Shemini Atzeret on Israel on Iran. So I'm just saying there's a lot of connections there. The thing that we need to be watching, though, is Erdogan's in the process right now of talking to Assad to see if he can repair this gap that they have between Erdogan and Assad, because they just don't like each other. They haven't liked each other for a while. Assad's been in power since like 2000, so he's been there a long, long time. Erdogan does not like him. These two do not get along at all, and I do not see a repair happening. And so Erdogan's just going to basically invade and start pushing the Kurds towards the east, and then he's coming down into Lebanon to deal with the Lebanese, Palestinian, Israeli problem. This first attack on the Kurds, which is getting ready to happen, will decimate them to the point they have to collapse towards the regional capital of Erbil, Iraq, just as it happened in Alexander the Great's time when he invaded. And if you go to this Kurdish live map, you can click on just the Kurds. This is the activity that's been occurring in the last few weeks, months, or whatever, and you can go through the articles, and it indicates all of the different things that are happening over there between mostly Turkey, Assad, and the Kurds, and how this is affecting this area tremendously. But if you've looked at prior maps that I've shown of this area, you'll realize how much amplification and how much more ramping up of events that we have in front of us here, and how this whole area is getting ready to erupt out here. So you're having protests, you're having attacks, you're having artillery bombardments, you're having drone attacks, you're having our government coming in to try to intervene at times, but that we really aren't effective anymore. And it's just, and you even have Assad coming up here reinforcing very specific areas or groups of people here. And like here, he's sending up forces in the last couple of days. So you can see all these different effects that are happening over in the Middle East and how this is getting ready to break out. So I just want you to be aware that this is starting to turn ugly over here, and this is going to be horrific as we move forward in the next year, year and a half. And you need to understand, Erdogan's on a mission. He's ideologically driven to rebuild this Ottoman Empire, as he indicated last year during their 100th year ceremony, that he was going to take them into the new 100th year or 100 years of the new Centurion Ottoman Empire that he's getting ready to build and become the Sultan of. And if you have been watching him in the last year, his rhetoric has been extremely harsh in what he's going to do if this does not correct. Now, we also had Qatar and those ceasefire talks totally disintegrate. So that is off the table at this point too, and so nobody's really talking about any kind of peace talks, and they weren't going anywhere because both sides, especially Hamas, was not being reasonable in that purpose. So God bless. Keep an eye on this one. This is getting ready to break. Also, you had, just for your own information, you've got gold hitting highs, Bitcoin's pushing over 93,000 now because of fear out here. Watch the VIX, because the VIX is going to start to pop if this breaks out. As you watch Iran getting ready to do something, they're going to do something. You know this attack is coming. You better get ready for what's getting ready to happen in front of you. And you're not going to be pre-removed before all this happens. So you need to get ready. You need to get your oil in your lamp, and you need to do what's proper and stay in God's word and believe in the Lord Jesus so that you can get through this process. So I'm going to give you the date count for today. You are on November 13th. You are 1,763 days to the Feast of Trumpets of 2029, September 10th. And so I believe that is where you need to get to. And hopefully we can get you through this process and give you a map of what is getting ready to happen out here so you have better understanding and you will not lose hope as you move forward into the future here. Because that's going to be what happens. As the churches, in their infinite wisdom, have taught most of the congregations or the masses out here that there's a pre-rapture event that's not going to happen, this will break the churches someday. And they will have to deal with this problem and this abrupt event that's getting ready to be unleashed upon them. Because when these masses of people that are in these churches, especially in the mega churches, have been basically misinformed. I don't know if lying's a good word. Maybe they're just not understanding God's word properly, and they've been told or misled that they're not going to have to go through any of this, that they probably ought to rethink their strategy as the world is collapsing around them. Because it was my understanding, based on that theology, that when Revelation 4:1 happens and John is removed to heaven to see the vision in heaven, that the churches are removed all at that same time, which I don't believe in. Doesn't say that in Revelation. It says that there's 24 kings with crowns up there, which are in God's hierarchy, special people, prophets, Moses, I don't know who they are, people that govern his kingdom, led by God and his son, Jesus, fall down and throw their crowns in the center. It doesn't even reflect the 12 tribes because there's 24 of them. So I don't get that conversation at all. John is taken up. He tells you clearly John is removed, taken up for a vision, and that he's supposed to seal up that vision until the end, when we will all be pushed through this season of turmoil, which is getting ready to happen on you. You're in a strong generation of the Jews. You're in the 80th year between May 14th of 1948 and May 14th of 2028. You're in a Shemitah cycle between September of 2022 and September of 2029. On that first day of the Feast of Trumpets of September 10th of 2029, on the prophetic Jewish calendar, it converts into the year of 2030. It's not a Gregorian thing. It's a Hebrew calendar thing. Okay? When that happens, you have then completed your 2,000-year period of gap of time between the time Jesus was crucified in 30 AD to 2030 AD, and it completes with a wrath effect, because the Feast of Trumpets of 29 on that very first day starts a marriage cycle and also a wrath phase, with bowls being dropped upon the wicked, because we're removed on the seventh or the last trumpet, as indicated in the Bible multiple times. So if you're being removed before the seals even break, as most churches believe, how do you get to the last trumpet when he removes the church and the body of Christ and all the believers? It doesn't make any sense. You're going to see Turkey break out in January based on the paradigm. And I'm not going to go into the chart because the charts have been out there for a while, and I've been warning you that in January this was going to happen. So get your oil ready. Get ready for destruction because it's getting ready to come upon you. God bless and have a great night.